Game Changers, and I hope you're well. Welcome to the Game Changers experience. I'm super excited, super pumped. I love doing these shows, actually. I really do. And, it's interesting because what I love about doing these shows is the fact that some of the stuff that we get the opportunity to do some of these things live. So we get to have this amazing, fun experience. But it's just something that I really enjoy doing, and I hope that you guys love listening to us as whatever it is. I wanted to really kind of crack on, really, because we've got a great show lined up today. This particular gentleman, actually, he's been in my pipeline for about sort of 6 years or thereabouts. We actually joined the same particular business course quite a while ago. I mean, you know how it is with relationships and stuff. You kind of like, oh yeah, I kind of know of you, and I kind of don't know of you, but it's interesting how our guest today, Robin, he has really kind of gone through what I call the entrepreneurial roller coaster. He's really ridden that. And it's the same for a lot of us. A lot of people that are successful or have got some influence and really add value to a lot of people. They've really ridden the entrepreneurial roller coaster, and it's probably the same for you guys that are listening in right now as well. So, what are we going to be covering today? Who is Robin? Well, Robin is basically, he's the founder of Fearless Business. He's a best-selling author and a speaker, but we're going to be covering a lot of things on, how to stop underselling yourself, and really, looking at it from the perspective of how do we increase our value in our business, because we're going to be talking a lot about pricing, we're going to talk about sales, we talk about perceptions and things like that. So yeah, all good. So without further ado, give yourself a round of applause, Mr. Robin Waite. How you doing, Robin? Woo!
I feel like I need some walk-on music.
If only that was the case. You know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of interesting how, I don't know about you, but with podcasting, virtual summits, all of that kind of stuff, it's really trending right now. And I just can't see how live events really fit into, how they really fit into sort of our arena right now. I just can't see that happening from your perspective. What do you reckon?
Well, you look at what the likes of Tony Robbins achieved. Last week he had 18,000 people, on a live virtual event, and it's just phenomenal. And I've heard I didn't, unfortunately, was able to attend, but I've had lots of friends who went along to it, and they just said that somehow he still managed to keep that same level of energy that he's got. And at one point he was on stage, he spoke for 5 hours pretty much straight. It was completely epic. And I have to admit, though, I do miss that buzz that you get when you actually do step on a live stage in front of a couple hundred people or a few thousand people, and
True.
You kind of you get those interactions, those little moments which I don't think you really truly get online. So when you're in the middle of a talk and there's somebody sat in the front row and you can see them nodding and you connect with them, like eye contact, and they get it, and it's like that's the bit of connection which I really miss.
Yeah, 100%. No, absolutely. And I don't know about you, but it's like this, having human connection. You know what I mean? It's that kind of missing part, the energy, the live time, the atmosphere and the ambience. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's completely missing. But just saying that, people like Russell Brunson and who's doing funnel hacking live, and just sort of events like that, like you mentioned Tony Robbins and things like that, they've really managed to do their best to duplicate the great. I mean, we do the Game Changers Summit, and we really do our best to really take that sort of live event experience and bring it into the virtual world. So
well, do you know what my view on that was? Because it was really interesting when we went into the pandemic, the lockdown originally, and there were loads of people going, "Oh, I don't like Zoom, and I don't like being online, and how am I going to make this work?" And it's just not the same experience. That's what I kept on hearing. It's not the same experience. And I was like, "Do you know what? It's not the same experience." But if your mindset is that, fixed mindset, it's not, scarcity mindset. It's not going to be the same experience. That's what you're going to give people. True. So my view was, you can see my background, like jazzy lights and my, logo over there.
I love that, by the way. I love the blue neon, and like there's this like blue neon, and then you've got like an orange, which is like a horizon. I think it's fantastic.
Well, it's all. I tried to do it all in my sort of branded colours, but the thing is, I didn't have that pre-lockdown. I didn't have my shelves, didn't have any of this background. It's just plain white background. I thought, do you know what? If we're going to be in the online virtual world for a while, I need to do something better, bigger. Like it needs to be 110% of what it was before, because now this is going to be the new normal, and people do need to be elevated and lifted a little bit during coaching sessions or podcast interviews or whatever it might be. So I was like, sorry, I'm just going to put everything into this and make it as good an experience as I can do. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it works. So.
Yeah, I love that neon light that you've got in the background. I think it's fantastic. I think it really stands out, actually. I love it.
Well, and you know what? It's one of the best things as well. This is probably going to go completely wrong now, but we can have a little party as well. Love it. This is where I'm not going to be able to figure out how to turn it off now. But no, it's a bit of fun. It just makes it a bit more interesting. That's all.
I agree. In fact, I got my kids one of these. Sort of fluorescent color changing lights that you similar to what you got over at Christmas time. So they've all got it in their room. So when they have kids, when they have friends around, they can have their own party and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny, but it's all good. Anyway, 100%. Listen, great to have you on the show today, and looking forward to our chat. And for you guys that are listening in, by the way, if you're listening to this live or you listen to this recording, just make sure that you've got either a sort of a notebook and a pen handy if you've got one handy, because I don't know about you, but when I listen to podcasts, when I listen to summits and listen to speakers, whatever it is, I always love picking up aha moments, because it doesn't matter, some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about, it's not rocket science, but the key point is it's all about, if you get that sort of the odd golden nugget here and you pick up the odd golden nugget, then you're like, oh my God, that is a game changer, right? And that's what I love about these conversations. So, but it's all good, right?
Pop it into the comments as well. Like if you're watching this live, drop that insight into the comments, because sometimes the insights you pick up won't be the same as what somebody else's insights will be. So drop it in the comments. Let us know you're watching.
True. And for you guys that are listening into the recording, if you want to reach out to us as well, make sure you do so, and you can reply to our email address and connect with us. Or in fact, what you can do, even better, you can leave a 5-star review after this podcast, because we know that how much we deliver, and that's just being cheeky, but hey, that's just me. But anyway, listen, all good. So we're going to be talking a lot about selling and pricing structures and stuff like that. We're going to talk about that today. But let's start off with I suppose sort of the first question, I guess, from my perspective is that, there's a lot of businesses, right, that I suppose they like to compare themselves with their competition, right? And do you think, from your perspective, that prospects, clients, customers, however you kind of like put them into this window, do you think that they're sensitive to price, and how does that increase our value? So I suppose there's like a double whammy there.
Yeah, well, one of the first things you mentioned there about sort of comparing ourselves to the competition. Well, I remember the days when I was running my marketing agency, and we had there were 20 local marketing agencies, and I had this penny drop moment that if we charged what the cheapest one was charging, economically it wouldn't work for our business. We'd be operating at a loss, because we had an office, overheads, we had a small team and things like that. So the local marketing agency, albeit as just a freelancer who didn't have all of the overheads, he can afford to charge a little bit less than what we were charging. But then I noticed that one of the things I kept on saying to myself was, we can't be the most expensive because nobody will buy from us. And this is obviously before I know what I know now about pricing. And so we kind of did that, the very normal thing, which is settle in the middle, because we didn't want to be perceived to be the cheapest, didn't want to be the most expensive. But what I figured was that, there is one person in every marketplace who is the most expensive, right? It's logic. There is just one person in your market who is the most expensive. Typically, though, they've got the most Google reviews, they've got the best reputation, they get the most referrals, and this is the most important thing, they're the most expensive, and they're still getting clients. So there's a clue there that we can be the most expensive in the market and still run a sustainable business and get clients, okay? But one of the things which I think a lot of small business owners really struggle with is this process of like being able to articulate their value and explain to people about sort of, you know, their worth and why they should buy from them. So, you know, where you touched on that around sort of how do we start to build that value? Well, a major part of it is actually confidence mindset. So, you know, if we in it, like we can go down the money mindset sort of chat around, you know, where that comes from, but most people, like 99% of the population, have a very poor money mindset because it's been instilled into them since their childhood. You know, hearing things like, oh, it's too, you know, you can't buy those trainers because they're too expensive. We can't go on holiday this year because we can't afford it. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money's the root of all evil. We've heard it all before. But actually those beliefs aren't useful as adults who want to grow businesses.
True.
Because the one goal in business, this is going to sound very trite, but the one goal in business is to make money, right? Otherwise, you're a charity or a not-for-profit. And even then, they still have to make money, right, to get by. And I'll caveat that because obviously we do it with a purpose, sense of vision, a mission, you know, etc. So we still have our values, but ultimately, like, if you're not making money, you're going to go out of business. And, you know, so we have to have a very abundant mindset where we believe that we can go out and create wealth from our products that we sell and services that we sell. And if you don't have that underlying belief, you're just going to be challenged all the way through your business life, unfortunately. And it took me way too long to learn. I mean, I've been in business for 20 years. I'd say probably half of that was building up this confidence because my parents didn't, unfortunately, like gift me with, you know, all of the golden nuggets around sort of having a positive money mindset and things like that. I had to figure this out for myself. And it took me a good decade to like work it out. And then all of a sudden, you know, you mentioned the course that we both went on earlier on, you know, Dan Priestley. That was absolute game changer for me. It was just all of a sudden you're in this world of very highly successful people. And, I come out of this little sleepy Cotswolds town into this environment where you've got these amazing, like, high achievers, and you're in a room full of 50 of them going on this journey together. And that was a catalyst for me. That just like, right, I can do this. I'm starting to understand this now.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Very cool. You know, it's interesting. You know, one of the things that really drives me insane, Robin, and this is a real, and maybe it's a money mindset thing, I don't know, but this whole kind of like blockage with regards to, you know, like a lot of some of our listeners might be thinking, well, you know, a lot of my prospects, clients, or customers, they can't afford it, right? It's like you made the decision for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean? It's like, well, how do you know that? Well, how did you come to that conclusion exactly? Do you know what I mean? I mean, what's your take on that? You know, with regards to, you know, pricing and sort of valuing yourself and things like that.
Yeah, well, that's it. Again, that comes from that underlying core belief of I'm not worth it. So therefore, we make an assumption that everybody else thinks the same as us. But the reality is we're all different. Okay, so and you're excuse the pun, you were bang on the money there because you know what you said was, you know, we've made a decision on behalf of all of our prospective clients. And the thing is as well, like people see the buying decision like this. When you get to that pointy end of the question, how much is it? They see it as being like a binary decision. It's either too cheap or it's too expensive. It's a yes or it's a no. I'm in or I'm out, right? The reality is though, there's always a bandwidth. And this is the same with people's perception about your products or services. So, you know, there are degrees of people who are just not sold. They're just not in at all, and they can't see the value of it, irrespective of the price of it. Maybe they lack the confidence in your ability to deliver, or maybe they're not sure about your reputation, or maybe they're not sure. There's underlying like things there, but ultimately they're not sold. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got people you barely have to say any words to, and they're like, yeah, I'm in, because they've been through your sort of customer journey and read your books, they've watched your videos, they've listened to your podcast, they've had great referrals, and they're already pre-sold. And you've got all of these people in the middle. So we can't just make an assumption that just because we put our prices up, none of those people are going to buy. Because there's a chunk of them that still will. And there's a really great example of this, actually. It was highlighted, one second. It was highlighted in this amazing book. I don't know if you've read this at all.
What? Detox, declutter, dominate. Love it. Very cool.
By
Never
Perry
seen.
Marshall. So Perry Marshall's an amazing consultant based in the States. And so this book's 34 pages long. It's like short book. It's even got pictures in it, which makes it like super easy to sort of read and engage with. It's a lovely little book, right? But in it, he talks about this one amazing concept around the Starbucks espresso machine. Okay, so most people go into Starbucks to go and just buy their coffee, mocha chocolate, whatever it is, chino, in the morning, right? But they know their customer base, right? They've got a loyal fan base, millions of customers all around the world, and there's a group of people, a select group of people who show up, raving fans each and every day to buy their coffee, and they know that for every 1 in 10,000 people, and they're raving fans, one of them one day is going to walk in and say, John, I want my coffee. Can I have a bag of beans? Oh, and by the way, that espresso machine that you've got on the counter behind you, can I have one of those as well? Now, nobody, if you go into Starbucks next time, look out for the espresso machine because they have one and it has a price tag on it.
I didn't know that. Mind you, I don't go into Starbucks very often. I mean, come on.
Well, no, we don't because of the pandemic. We haven't, we're starting to get better. But the point is here. So their espresso machine is double any other espresso machine. If you went into, I don't know, John Lewis or Argos or wherever you buy your coffee machines from, right? This one is double the price. Thing is, though, they know that the net profit on that one espresso machine they sell periodically, like maybe 1 or 2 per store per year, is about the same sort of net profit margin of about delivering 3,000 cups of coffee.
No, really?
Yep. So in one product. Yep.
Damn.
But you think about the price though. So the price of a cup of coffee, £2.40, £3, whatever it is, and then the espresso machine like £400 or £600, quite expensive, right? But the reality is like most business owners don't have an espresso machine in their business because they're too afraid, too fearful to actually like put themselves out there. So take me as a coach, for example. A version of my espresso machine might be, well, I have a course, which is DIY. It's relatively cheap and inexpensive. Then you have your sort of group program, which is where you get some actual coaching. And maybe you have some one-to-one coaching, which you do with somebody. And then you have a big corporate high ticket package, which is like 5-10 times the price of your one-to-one. It's like 50K, 100K or something like that. Periodically, and it kind of baffles me sometimes, because I kind of think I'm a bit dumb, but I get great results from my clients, and it's all great. But so periodically somebody comes along and they pay that. And I'm like, brilliant. It's a win-win because they can see the value, they get great value and results, but they're willing to kind of, invest the money in it. So every business should have an espresso machine. Now, the catch here though is when I encourage people, especially service business owners, to have an espresso machine, they want to go to town on designing it. Like they want to build the product before they actually put it out there on the shelf. Okay.
Agreed.
The reality is when you have like information-based products, Adam, like you and I kind of, the arena that we kind of work in, you can sell a concept, a theory now, provided you've got the confidence in your ability to deliver that. So if somebody buys it, you've got a pretty good idea about how you're going to deliver it. You don't actually have to have it fully packaged up and designed, but you can sell people based on the results that it's going to deliver. So you just need to put it out there. You don't need to put it out as a special offer or tell people about it. But as long as it's on the shelf, so somebody can come and buy it, great, you're in.
Would that still be applicable to more product-based businesses or even sort of professional services-based businesses? Because I know that you do a lot of stuff with a lot of coaches and consultants and stuff like that. But would that still apply?
100%. Well, I tell you what. Look at the likes of Tesla. Okay, yep. So he has the Model S, the Model X, the Model Y, the Model 3. If anybody ever hasn't noticed that spells out the word sexy.
Right? Do you know what? I actually didn't notice that. That's crazy. He
actually did that intentionally, and I was like, brilliant. That's my kind
great
of
marketing. I love it. Love it.
The interesting thing was though, he launched with at the time the most expensive. He already knew kind of roughly what the range was going to look like, and obviously they brought out that crazy like truck now as well. But he launched actually with the most expensive product into the marketplace because obviously that it's kind of because they worked so hard to build up the brand and the reputation before, and taking deposits for this product. So they've made it highly desirable. So they went with the most expensive product first that was going to bring in the greatest amount of cash flow into the business. And, then obviously profitability, which they could then put into the more mass market models. So Tesla's a really good example of where you got an $80,000. Ultimately the truck is probably going to be their espresso machine. So I think the price of that's something like $130,000 or $150,000. But then they've got the Model S sort of $80,000, and then it starts to go down before you get to the model. I think it's the Model 3, which is the kind of run of the mill one, which is about $30,000. So, they've got their espresso machine. And actually, if you look at most businesses, there will be an espresso machine out there. What another example, really great example. I'm wary. I'm talking a lot here, Adam, as well. But
no problem. We don't mind that. It's all good.
This is a really great sort of anecdote. A friend of mine used to work for a big international charity as a consultant, so doing Facebook advertising for them. So his remit was for a specific area, Indonesia, to spend $10 million on Facebook ads to turn it into $60 million through fundraising. Okay, so 5x ROI, return on investment. He didn't like working there, so he's a church pastor as well locally. It's partly sort of how we got to know one another and just having conversations and stuff. And he's like, I want to get out of UNICEF because I want to have a bigger impact. I want to work with all of the charities, not just this one. So we created an 8-week accelerator which would teach people how to do what he does, but in other charities. So the likes of, say, Greenpeace South America would come along and they put 10 people on, like the whole marketing team from South America, because if just one person gets this concept, they're making 7 figures in fundraising, year in, year out. So we charge per head for that $3,800. So Greenpeace, 38 grand to put 10 people on, right? So that's the basic level product. And then, so this is where we get into the espresso machine for him. He wanted to get out of consulting. So because obviously it's very much considered time for money. He had a young family like me. He wanted to spend more time with them, didn't really want to get sucked into doing big, long consulting gigs. And another big UK cancer charity came along to him and said, listen, we've seen what you've done with all of these different charities. We're struggling to implement, we need a change process and we need somebody to lead it. Would you come in and do that for us for 3 weeks? Right. So they're now going to put all of their oomph behind it to get it done really quickly, like big sprint. And he's like, Robin, I kind of want to help them, but I don't really want to get involved in consulting. And I know it's going to take a bit longer than 3 weeks. Like, what should I do? And I was like, well, what's driving you right now? What do you want? And he said, well, I'd love to pay off my mortgage. All right. And it was, I think his mortgage was something like 450K or something. So it's like, I want to pay off my mortgage. It's like, cool. Well, that's your price then. He's like, what? They wouldn't possibly pay that. I was like, but you might as well make it worth your while. Like, put it out there. It's going to be massively transformational for them. I know they're a charity, but charities do have money, and they want you. It's 450K. So we went back to them and they said yes.
Love it.
His immediate reaction was, oh God, I'm going to have to do the work now. But, but that was his espresso machine. And he just had to put it out into the world and ask for it. This is the one biggest mistake that people make. So, Frank Kern.
Yes.
You had Frank Kern. So big in the internet marketing world, sort of, he's been around since day dot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really inspirational guy. And he said one of the reasons why people fail in business is because they don't put offers out there, right? And he's not talking about buy one, get one free or 40% discount or things like that. What he's talking about is just simply telling people what the next step is in your process and guiding them towards a product, not selling them, but guiding them towards the product which they need. So, most business owners wouldn't be brave enough, fearless enough to be able to, go out and just say, yeah, you can have that, but it's $450,000. They would just like all of a sudden they'd be like, imposter syndrome kicks in. I'm not worth it. They'll never pay that. And hey, presto, we don't get the work, but we never told anybody about the fact that we could do that piece of work in the first place. So we're never going to get it.
It's a good point, and I suppose it's like you said, it's confidence. It's also not just confidence, but it's kind of just getting yourself out there and like you said, like we're talking about, which is knowing your worth, knowing your value to a whole new level. And don't be scared, because if you and you gave a great example there of one of your old clients and stuff like that. I think it was it's a great example. I love that. What I was going to say, here's interestingly enough, now I kind of thought to myself, well, now that person was ultimately scared. They were fearful of, I'm not sure about this. Do you know what I mean? So what advice do you have for maybe our listeners that are listening in, whether it be live or recorded or whatever it is, that might be scared of putting their prices up because they think that, that they're, like we talked about earlier, right? Their prospects can't afford it. Their customers, their client can't afford it. There's not enough money out there, all of those things and whatever it might be. But what advice do you have for people that are scared of putting their prices up for whatever reason?
Yeah, well, so step number one, has somebody else done it? Is somebody else charging that amount or close to it? Because if somebody else is doing it successfully and they're getting clients, well, there's a chance that you probably can too. Okay. Sure. So that's the first shift. All we do is we just open up the door to the thought that, yes, maybe we can do it. So it's just slowly easing our way into it. The second thing is I'm a big fan of data and validation. Okay. So what we do is rather than just make this assumption and this decision on behalf of all of our clients, actually go and ask them. So you need to, and rather than just ask them, you actually need to kind of pitch your product to potential buyers. So you need to go and test different price points. Now, most people will only put their prices up once a year, once every 2 years or something like that. It's normally very safe, like 10 or 20% max. And they're really petrified of doing that because they're actually focused on just one part of their audience. They're only focused on their existing clients. And that's what creates the fear because they think their existing clients will leave through a price increase. Actually, there's two audiences, okay? So we've got our existing clients. We've also got new prospective clients. They've not yet been exposed to your pricing, so they've got nothing to compare this to, okay? So there's a ton of opportunity there. There's no tension at that point. There's tons of opportunity. So you pick your next 10 prospects and pitch them at a higher price point. So that's step number 2. Step number 3, and this is where we can have a bit of fun with this actually, Adam, because the next question I normally get at that point is, well, how do I work out how much to charge? What price point do I test at? Part of it is a bit of finger in the air. So long as it's higher than what you were charging before, that's fine. But there is a process. Are you game? Do you want to play? Cool. So you don't have to give too much away here, but have a product in mind that you want to increase the price of potentially. How much is it at the moment?
Mm-hmm.
$5,000,
10
$5,000.
grand.
Okay, so we've got a 5K product. Okay.
Yep.
Now, if I just asked you the question, is it beyond the realms of possibility? Like today, if I asked you or invited you to pitch it for 50K, what do you think?
I wouldn't have a problem. But I'm sure there's a lot of people.
Okay. Well, here we go. What about 100K?
For the same product?
Same product, 100K. Right, you're hesitating. Okay, so what we've done here, remember I talked about bandwidth, okay? So sure. Pricing has a bandwidth as well, right? So now what I've done with you, Adam, is I've created a bandwidth between 5K and 100K. Yep. Now you were okay at around, you were like, yeah, 50K. So yeah, I could do that, right? That's because you're Adam, but there was hesitation at 100, right? What I'm going to do with you now is I'm going to do an auction. I'm probably going to start around about the 50K mark actually, because you're already like, yeah, I reckon I could do that. And I'm going to work my way up. You don't have to tell me anything. I'm going to know when we're starting to kind of what price point we should go at. So if we were 50K, 60K, 70K. So, okay, right. So it's 70K. That's where you're starting to get a little bit outside your comfort zone.
I'd probably say 70. I'd say 75. I'd say 75. Okay. That would be
so 70 was comfortable. 75 was just outside your comfort zone. Okay, so we pitch just outside your comfort zone. The next 10 or 20 prospects who come and you want that product, we pitch them at 75K. And you experienced, I don't have to teach you about sales and things like that, but I can guarantee that if you've got a good conversion rate in your 5K product, if your confidence is, if you're just outside your comfort zone, like we've got a needle that's kind of fits in the middle. If you're selling lots at 5K, yeah, we're going to artificially decrease your conversion rate by increasing the price, but we want to be somewhere in between 1 in 5 and 1 in 3 as a conversion rate. So you go and pitch 10 people, 20 people, you should close 2, 3, or 4 of those with that product at that price point. Okay. Yep. And the nice thing is, and this is where we then move into like the mechanics. Now we've got our data, our feedback. Somebody said yes, so we're feeling confident. And this is now our barometer. Do you know the thing which gets me, like really gets my goat, Adam, is when people come to me and they say, oh, if you put me in a room with people, my conversion rate's like ridiculously high. I close like 80, 90%. So the needle is over here, right?
What bullshit.
How can we? Well, yeah, one. There's BS. Yeah, if you put me in a room with like my ideal client, I can close everybody. It's like, yeah, but the thing is, there's data and validation, but when we're like closing 100%, we can't improve that anymore. So we can't actually test it anymore.
True.
If that makes sense.
True.
When you've got the needle 1 in 5 to 1 in 3 kind of around here, we can kind of like, right, we'll push our prices up a little bit more. Okay, conversion rate starts to dip. It's coming into 1 in 5, right? What's missing from our product that's going to, what value do we need to add into that in order to get the conversion rate to come back up and people see the value in it? And so now, because we've got this opportunity to be able to flex, if it's there or if it's there, it's kind of really hard to actually test and get good data out of it. So that's kind of step number 4, is we artificially kind of like move the needle, conversion rate needle, somewhere into the middle, so that we've got a bit of bandwidth to operate within.
True. Love it. Love it. Love it. Some good stuff there. And I suppose feedback is really crucially important as well. Like you said, testing the market, going to existing clients, finding out how they'd feel about stuff and things like that. Do you think that's a good call as well if they're doing that research?
Massively. I put an incredibly controversial post into my Facebook group during the week, which was about the relationship between the buyer and the seller. Okay. As somebody who sells services, when somebody says no, it's actually really helpful. I mean, they don't have to give me a reason why, but it's actually really helpful to me if I understand like why they're saying no, because it informs me. It means I can we either go, oh, it's just not a good fit, and actually that's absolutely fine. I'm so far detached from the outcome, like sales wise, and there's a number of reasons for that. That's a whole process in its own right. But when somebody says no, I kind of want to know why. And I had a person, the premise of the post, I just popped up that somebody had said, oh, I can't buy Fearless because it's too expensive. And every objection, it kept on coming back to price. And you and I know that price is never really the real objection. There's always, dig a couple of layers deep and there's always another reason in there. But they kept on saying price. And it was bullshit, because a week later, I see that they've bought this puppy on, they posted a picture of this puppy on Facebook, and I looked at the price of the breed, and it's like $3,500. I was like, you blatantly just lied to me. But then there was a whole argument of, stream of people kind of haranguing me for this post, because I was like, as a buyer, just be honest. Like, tell the person you're buying a service from, a product from, if you don't like it, tell them why. Because take a Tesla. Oh, the doors are too big. It won't fit in my garage. It won't. Like, it actually helps inform them to make a better product.
It's true.
Don't just tell lies. And it's really interesting, right? So
it's like it's like anything. And when you're in a situation like that, and here in Scandinavia, for example, it's classic. Is that people don't want to. They don't want to. What's the word I'm looking for? They don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that. That's the mindset, right? I don't want to hurt your feelings. I want to be nice, type of thing.
So this is where like you get into the arts of, like, again, knowing your worth, being able to sell your services and sell well in a non-pushy. One of the best tips I ever got around sales was open the door up to the no. If you can open the door up to the no, it actually makes the yes easier. So then, like, how do we do that? So quite simply, at the start of the conversation, we say, listen, we're going to have a conversation about your business. We're going to work out whether this is a good fit, but please be honest with me. If we get to the end of this conversation and it's a no, please just let me know why. And no is okay. I don't mind. I'm not here to sell you something if it's not a good fit.
Yep.
And so quite often I do get that bit of feedback. And even with this person, I got that bit of feedback. But it's interesting because I got judged quite heavily in that, but because of that post, because everybody's like, oh, well, it's COVID. It might be for her well-being, and it might be for her children, and it might be for this. How dare you judge her on that, this, that, and the other? Now I'm being judged, right? So it was completely meta. It was ridiculous. And I put, in the end, I was like, look, I didn't put in the post, it's me or the dog, and I'm pissed off that I didn't get the sale because she bought a dog. That's not what this is about. This is about the buyer taking responsibility, for their decisions and just being honest. Because If you think about it, Adam, right? You and I both sell services. We're both incredibly abundant people. You and I spent hours on things like Clubhouse, doing videos and podcasts like this. We want to educate and inform people. We've both written books. We give away so much value, right? So yes, ultimately we have a business to run. We will sell products off the back end of that. That is a given. Okay. And again, if it's a good fit, we'll do it ethically, morally, and it's all done the right way.
Sure.
So we're here as sellers, giving all of this value, giving up our free time. We do, sales calls with prospective clients. We give up an hour, we give them the strategy, we give them the tools. But it's then the buyer who takes all of that free stuff, right? Then you give them a proposal and then they just ghost you. So they're the ones being evasive. They're the ones taking the free stuff. They're the ones, and people can't quite marry this up. And the simple reason is we've had it drilled into us that salespeople are slimy, they're persuasive, they're aggressive, they're this, they're this, they're this, they're this, they're this.
It's true.
Nobody's ever asked a question about what's the buyer like.
Well, it's true, and I think you really hit the nail there, because there gets to a point where, I mean, we serve and we give value, which is a huge word, obviously, because it's so overused in this day and age. But the reality is that they'll get to a point where, it all goes back to, is this person really the type of person that I really want to be working with, number one? And number two, are they aligned to my personal values? So, there are particular types of clients that don't really like me. And guess what? I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And so I think it's about, from my perspective, it's about really kind of not just knowing your worth, but also making sure that you're hanging out with the right tribe of people, that appreciate you for who you stand for. Because, some people don't like the high energy. Some people don't like the fact that I swear every now and then. But you know what? I don't give a shit, because I'm just being me. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, and that's just life at the end of the day, and I think that you can become I think what's key here, especially for the listeners that are listening in, is the key is not to become emotionally attached to any particular outcome. I don't know about you, Robin, but when I first got into business, right, when people used to turn around and say no, I used to get so upset about it. It's like, why are they not buying my products? Oh my God, oh my God. I'm like, oh my, why me? And you start blaming you, and you start blaming your judgment. And then it's like, well, maybe it isn't you. Maybe it's just because this particular person have got their own freaking issues. And I'm a big believer in also timing. Timing is absolutely crucial. But yeah, it's an interesting conversation. But yeah, it's so funny. It's all good.
The thing is that, like, the post clearly polarized, and it happens kind of. I didn't intentionally kind of put something out there to be like controversial. That's not really my style, but accidentally I managed to do it periodically. And it actually, what it informed me was that this is like a really hot topic. This is actually something we do need to talk about. And I think I offended some people. I didn't mean to, but and they were coming back saying that somehow I got triggered because I was angry, and they made all these assumptions about me. And I was like, well, you didn't listen to the conversation I had with this person.
Exactly.
I gave her like a 12-month strategy for her business to transform it so that she could go out and buy 20 dogs if she wanted to, not just one. Like I was as generous as I could be. I sent her the book, and I have no problem like doing any of that stuff. And again, so I just wrote back and I'm like, I've been triggered. Like, somebody put the word trigger. I've been triggered. I was like, I haven't. What are you talking about? You're making stuff up now.
It's interesting, right? You can't please everybody, and that's the bloody problem in this world. Is that it doesn't matter how much value you give to someone. Doesn't matter what you could get. You could practically run their business for you, and guess what? You'd get zero gratitude and appreciation.
Yeah.
And that's like, well, do you know what?
But it's balanced. It's balanced off at the other end of the spectrum. Again, it's bandwidth. Again, it's not binary thinking that we have good clients and bad clients. You have bad prospects who are never going to be a good fit. You have some okay ones. You have some good ones. You have some great clients, and it's about just kind of like use the right words. Find your tribe. Find the people you gel the most with, and hang out with them.
Yep. Very good. Interestingly enough, and I know we haven't really spoken about this too much, but if our listeners are offering a slightly cheaper price, a cheaper price than our competitors, as an example, how does that affect our brand? How does that affect the perceptional sort of quality to people that maybe haven't bought from us before? Or maybe your existing clients and customers. Any thoughts there?
Well, it's a bit like, God, there's the number of different sort of strands that I could, directions I could go off here with it. So I had an interesting conversation with a client. So they're in medical aesthetics. They do Botox injectables and things like that. So they operate a very high-end clinic. I've been working with them for a number of years, or 3 clinics actually. They've got 9 rooms in total. They're a 7-figure business. And we had a conversation quite early on about putting prices on their website, putting prices on their Facebook group and things like that. And they kept on getting objections on Messenger and kept on getting objections on email and things like that. Because essentially, from my perspective, they were giving their prices out too early on in the process because, believe it or not, like Botox is a medical procedure, having needles shoved in your face and things like that, and all of the other, aesthetics treatments you can get. And yet people shop around on the internet for the cheapest. And I was baffled by this. And do you know what? So we did an interesting experiment because they were kind of convinced that, we people want the prices, so we'll give them the prices. I said, well, you do it your way for a month, we'll do it my way for a month, and we'll compare data.
Yeah,
because they were the big, very high end clinic. They were the best and most expensive in their sort of niche. And so we took the prices off during my month. Now the conversion rate went up by 40%.
I love it.
And the reason for that was purely because they had the opportunity. Somebody would say, well, can you give me a price for this? And they'd say, well, hold your horses a second. This is it's a big investment, but B, this is a medical procedure and we need to speak to you. We need to understand who you are and what it is you're trying to achieve and this, that, and the other. So they took them on this educational process. And when these people who ordinarily, 40% of people ordinarily who would have shopped around a price and gone for the cheapest, when they had the opportunity to get some extra information and understand the differences between the cheapest and the most expensive, invariably they're now better informed as a buyer, they'd go for the more expensive one. And there was actually a bit of a byproduct to this as well, which was like I call it the pixie dust moments that we weren't expecting. Up until that point, so when the procedures go wrong, they have these things called reactions. So the skin reacts. It's like it's got a foreign body in it. It just blows up. So they have rashes and various things like that. So it's rare, but it does happen. So up until that point, typically on the average year, they'd have something like 18 reactions come in from another clinic down the road, come to them to then have it resolved and dealt with. Okay. So I was like, that's actually really high. Like, what's going on here? So because they were putting their prices, giving the price out Messenger and the emails and stuff like that, and the same as this cheaper company was doing. So this other company that was selling it was one person band in a small room in a health clinic that wasn't properly getting cleaned because this person was doing the injections, then having to quickly clean down the room between times, and creams were getting mixed up, and she was trying to save costs and not using the best ingredients and things like that. So you had all these people going to this low end like clinic who ended up ultimately coming to my high end clinic client to get these issues resolved. When we started hiding the prices, so people had to say the 40% higher conversion rate, that went down to on average 2 reactions a year coming from the other clinic. So this process of educating people was actually preventing like quite serious like medical conditions like reactions from happening. It's saving people's lives effectively,
sure,
in a way. And that I know that's an extreme case, but like giving out your prices too early and being the cheapest in the market actually is quite damaging potentially to customers. Now, most of us have businesses where we're not like, it's not medical procedures, like nobody's going to die off the back of it. But I still like to think of it that when a client comes in and wants to put their prices up, in some way I'm saving their life. Because if I can get them a little bit more money in their business and they're a bit more profitable, and they can have, maybe an extra holiday or 2 a year, or, with their family, and or like buy a house which is with a bigger garden. It has all these cascading effects where it's like knock on in terms of well-being and the relationships in their family and better lifestyle for their kids and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like money's not a bad thing. I think sometimes like we said it earlier on, the things we hear, money is the root of all evil. Just teaching people about the value of money.
True, very true. Interestingly enough, Sarah Franklin said it's the same with people buying the biggest purchase in their life, a house, yet they want to pay the person who makes sure the legals are sorted correctly as little as possible. And then she said, but lawyers have to give their costs in advance, which is true because there are professions out there that have to give their costs out in advance. But how do you, you kind of touched on it a little bit, haven't you? And you said, well, you can still effectively, rather than having your prices on your website, you can build some sort of customer journey. And then effectively, if they want to call you up or send you an email and have some sort of what I call consultation, then you can disclose that, can't you, on the call?
Yeah, 100%. And you can even have it in brochures which people have to apply to in order to download the prices and things like that. True. I should say as well, like, lawyers are tricky characters. I mean, I'm married to one, so I know. So no, she's ace. My wife is. Very That's right. I don't think she listens to podcasts, so we're probably
that's good. But there are plenty of other lawyers are.
Yeah, but this is where we get into sort of the realms of like productizing services. So this is where, say for example, that conveyancing process of like buying a house. You know, you can, within reason, you could have 3 to 5 core products, maybe for, I don't know, different sized houses or different numbers of people in the chain, or there'd be a couple of variables which will shift how much work is involved. But you could have 3 to 5 fixed fee core products here, which satisfy 80 to 90% of the market. Normally what I found is, and you can have this in any business, not just law firms, but normally what I found is then the 10 to 20% of the people who are like, oh, could you just add this bit on? Oh, could you customize that? Could I have this bespoke thing? They actually are what I call PITAF clients, pain in the ass factor clients. Right? They're the ones who like, they end up like, you know, they reduce profitability because they take up 80% of the time, and it just doesn't work. And again, I'll give you an example actually. So this is again another pixie dust moment. So with a very early coaching client of mine. So they used to do web design and hosting. Okay, so very heavily commoditized kind of products. Their hosting they used to charge £8 a month for, and their one goal was to get to £3,000 a month on the hosting fees alone. So the husband and wife partnership, young family, and so that they could take the summer off to spend with their kids without having to take on any extra clients during those 6 weeks. So great goal. And I said, I did a quick bit of maths. I said, cool. So you've got the capacity for 400 clients. No, Robin, that's just ridiculous. Couldn't possibly work with 400 clients. Like, cool. How many could you work with? Oh, probably about 100. Okay, well, how could we work with 400 clients then at the current price point? He's like, well, we could hire people. And I was like, what, on $3,000 a month? Like this is, you know, it's just enough money for you to be able to get by, let alone hiring other people. That's just not going to work. So we came to the conclusion that we had to put the prices up. And of course, we went through those objections of, oh, but people will leave and this and the other. It's like, yeah, some people will leave, okay. And we went radical with their pricing. So we went from minimum £8 a month up to minimum £50 a month. We layered on some extra value. So we added in some extra support time and various things like that. So it wasn't just jack the price up. That's not our process. It was like, let's stack some value in here, make it worth their while.
Love it.
So 120 clients, 40% of them left. Okay, so about 45 of those clients left, but their revenue went up 2.5 times overnight.
There you go.
Okay, so they're making more money from having the fewer clients who stayed. Okay, This is a pixie dust moment. Their support calls dropped by 85%.
Isn't that interesting? Which means less costs.
Well, yeah, but the thing is I didn't anticipate this. I knew that probably something would happen, but the clients who valued them the least, who were the biggest pain in the ass, phoning them up every 5 minutes. Oh, can you do this? Can you do this? Someone's like, don't work. Moaning all the time and stuff like that. They were the ones who left because they didn't get the value. And so that what they ended up with is the best clients who just were just super happy with the service they were offering. You know, so yeah, revenue up, number of clients down, but time and support massively transformed for them.
Interesting. I call those clients, I call them energy vampires. They suck out all your profitability. They suck out everything that you've got. Energy vampires.
And one last thing, just on the question as well. So you said, well, how is it about, how are we around the perception of being the cheapest? Okay, actually, I don't care about perceptions. Is like kind of irrelevant actually to that question. It's a good question, but it's that particular part of it. What's more important is around like underlying profitability, which is what you just touched on. Okay, so if you're in a fairly competitive marketplace and you set your prices, now the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants did some work on this, a study on this. But when money comes in at the top and it filters down through your profit and loss account, it's not like if you did a 10% discount, which like is basically what you're doing if you're cheaper than everybody else, you're offering a discount. If you offer just a 10% discount, the thought is that it will just reduce our profit by 10%. Actually, when the money falls down through the profit and loss, it compounds. Okay, because otherwise you would end up with £100 in, £100 out. So there's this compounding effect. It's like £100 in,
Right.
£20 out. Negative compounding, I should say.
True.
So actually what they worked out is with a 10% discount, you've actually got to sell 25% more of the same product to make the same net profit. So that 10% discount that you're offering, or being 10% cheaper than your competitors, you've actually got to do 25% more work to make the same money as them.
It's like quantity. It's like quantity over quality, isn't it?
Yeah. And for most people, that's just not. It's sustainable for a short period, and then their business just breaks.
Yeah. And you know, there's so many different. I know that supermarkets use it quite a lot with loss leaders and sort of other sales tactics, I suppose, to enhance their value, I suppose, in a way. And it can be done with physical products, information products, whatever it is. What is? Oh, Sarah said the Solicitors Regulation Authority has just ruled that solicitors need to have their costs on the information on the website. But I guess to get around that, I suppose you could still have a brochure, right? You could still have a brochure, and and again, it's all about, I suppose, perceptions and positioning and stuff like that, right? So, and I know that Sarah's very good at what she does because she's an all.
Yeah, you can put a pricing link on your website, click onto it, it has a bit of blurb, and then it says to download our pricing brochure, please click here. And it pops up with name, email address, telephone number. Telephone number is really important. And so you're still giving that information. It's still on the website, but at least there's a bit of an exchange there. And essentially what you're doing at that point is you're testing how warm a buyer they are, how like serious a buyer they are.
Exactly.
And I think that would work. I mean, I don't know the SRA kind of regulations kind of inside and out, but there will be a bit of a workaround like that, I'm sure.
Very cool. Listen, I know we come to the end of our bit of fun, our interview as such, and it's been good having a chat and things like that. What are you working on right now? Just out of curiosity, because I know that you've got a lot of things in the pipeline and stuff like that. And we hang out on Clubhouse and things like that. But what are you working on right now?
Well, I realized it's been 4 years since I launched Take Your Shot, which was my second official kind of my book. So I'm actually in the process. I'm about 22,000 words into the Fearless Business book, which is going to be all about pricing. So massively transformational. Some of the shifts, I mean, what we've gone through today, that's probably about, I don't know, 10% of what's going to go into the book in terms of it's just ideas and little anecdotes and stories just to kind of help to shift people's mindset from I'm not worth it to I am worth it and see their value. So yeah, very exciting. I'm hoping that's going to be out sometime in the autumn.
Very cool. So listen, guys, if you're interested in learning more about how you can increase your value, your prices, and position yourself slightly different to the market, then do yourselves a favor, connect with Robin, and you can click on his links on the links below. And make sure that you, even if you're listening to the recording, listen to this live or whatever it is, if you want to say, give us a hi, you can say hello or make any comments in the comment section below, you can do that anyway. So listen, guys, hope that you've enjoyed today. I hope that your notebook, like my notebook, has been filled up with great value bombs and golden nuggets. Make sure that you implement as well. It's really important to implement what me and Robin have been talking about. So I hope that you've enjoyed today. Robin, just want to say thanks very much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Adam. Thank you.
Awesome. Very good. Listen, guys, hope you enjoyed today. Make sure you listen in, subscribe. If you haven't already done, subscribe to the podcast, The Game Changers Experience. And you can listen to us on Apple, Google, Podchaser, all the wonderful channels and stuff like that. And we'll see you again for the next Game Changers Experience. Take care from me and Robin, and we'll see you soon.